Well, welcome to another session of the 15th annual Transforming the Teaching and Learning Environment virtual conference. I'm Bob Hales, I'm your moderator. Our session is examining the effects of online teachers training on university faculty teaching. Our presenters are Janet Werner, who's the program manager for instructional development and innovation in the Center for Teaching, Learning, and Mentoring at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. You're going to sing On Wisconsin at some point, right?
I think so, or show
Okay.
Bucky Badger.
We have Michelle Jarvie Eggert. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did.
Okay. We have Tom. Well, Michelle is an assistant professor of engineering fundamentals and is at Michigan Technological University. We have Tom Freeman, also from Michigan Tech. He's a senior instructional designer and online learning specialist in the William Jackson Center for Teaching and Learning. We also have Mary Benjamin, a PhD student in the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geospatial Engineering at Michigan Tech, and Luis Fernandez Arque. Did I pronounce that right, Luis?
Yes.
Okay. Luis is an undergrad assistant researcher and a psychology student at Grand Valley State University. So let me turn it over to this big crew who's going to tell us everything we need to know. Take it away.
Well, all right. Thank you so much, Bob. And thank you, everybody, for attending. We're really happy to see you. And welcome to Examining the Effects of Online Teachers Training on University Faculty Teaching. Bob did a good job of already introducing us. We'll go over this a little quickly, if for no other reason than the slides are here. Again, I'm Tom Freeman, Senior Instructional Designer, Online Learning Specialist with the Jackson Center for Teaching and Learning at Michigan Tech, Michigan Technological University. Adjunct Instructor with the Department of Cognitive Learning Sciences and Quality Matters Coordinator. Michelle?
And I'm Michelle Jarvie Eggert, and I'm Assistant Professor of Engineering Fundamentals at Michigan Tech. I'm also affiliated faculty in the Department of Cognitive and Learning Sciences and Civil, Environmental, and Geospatial Engineering.
And I'm Janet Staker Werner, and I'm from University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I think the titles speak for themselves. And Bob, thank you for the lovely introduction.
Luis?
And then I'm Luis Fernandez. I'm the undergraduate research assistant and a psychology student at Grand Valley State University.
And I'm Mary Benjamin, a PhD student in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering in Michigan Technological University.
All right. Thank you, everybody. So today we will look over the history of how this situation evolved here at Michigan Tech. Then we'll take a look at what the literature reveals about this, some of the aspects that have been well published and documented about how these kind of training efforts affect teaching and learning. A look at our survey and how it was made and delivered. Then right into the methodology used to code and analyze the qualitative data we received. And we'll take a look at our results and follow that up with some of the conclusions and some suggestions based on the results. And then hopefully we'll have a good chunk of time left for any Q&A that anybody would love to engage in, and we'd love to engage in that with you. So the history, Michigan Tech began incentivizing our teachers here to learn current best practices for teaching online in 2017. It was not required, but if it was highly encouraged, and to encourage instructors to get involved, we offered a $500 stipend, which we felt, if we can get somebody to establish good learning objectives and follow best practices and make engaging online learning, it was money well spent. And a little while after that, 2018-2019 academic year, our faculty senate voted to require all online instructors to be trained in current best practices of online teaching. Then along came the pandemic. And at the onset of that, all our faculty were informed that the Senate policy requiring online teacher certification would be enforced for fall 2020. Of course, many felt that there was going to be some kind of path because there was just, too many people forced to jump online all of a sudden. And we didn't force people right there in the spring when they were already teaching, or even that summer. But it was made well known that if you wanted to teach online in the fall, you were going to have to take this course or one of the other ones we chose as a good course to take to learn how to get certified to teach online. And this did result in all Michigan Tech's online teachers completing online teacher training by fall 2020. So all of them. And faculty were trained through our own ED 5101, Foundations of Online Teaching, UW-Madison's, University of Wisconsin-Madison's Foundations of Online Teaching, and the Educational Technology of Michigan's Canvas Online Teacher Certification course. There were 4 or 5 other courses they could take if they wanted to, and a few did, but the vast majority took these 3 courses. They were more easily accessible, much less expensive, and took less time. Now, after that, we wanted to investigate if that training had affected faculty teaching overall. Frankly, I had heard, and Michelle, through helping with my course, ED 51, have just heard this over and over again. It was the first thing somebody said is, this is going to change the way I teach everything, not just online. So we wanted to kind of dig in a little deeper and find out what the truth was behind that. So we surveyed those teachers who completed online teacher training between 2019 to 2021, and the results of this survey will be shown in this session. Janet?
Thanks, Tom. So before we actually get into the survey and the methodology, I want to talk a little bit about what the literature reveals. So confirmed, face-to-face and online teaching have a lot of similarities, although there are some nuanced differences. Faculty perceptions of online courses reflect lack of that understanding of the online space. The intentional design is critical for a successful online course. And then this idea of social presence or instructor in presence is important to continue the online success for learners. And then finally, faculty training does result in increased student satisfaction. And there are a plethora of studies that support this. And so I think you'll find as we go through this, you're going to see another affirmation of what this literature reveals. Tom, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Janet? So here's a kind of a brief look at the survey of MTU online faculty training participants. This is a snapshot of a look at the Google form. Yes, whoops. So this survey did go through IRB approval. 441 faculty were invited via email to complete the survey. We used Google Forms for this survey and Google Sheets to compile the results. The responses were kept anonymous, and those results in Google Sheets were automatically compiled, which was nice. I recommend using that if you can. It's pretty handy. I did send out 2 follow-up email requests to those to the whole group to complete the survey if you hadn't yet. And at the end of that, 172 faculty responded, giving us an N of 172, which equaled a 39% response rate. Luis?
All right. So our research focused on 3 main questions, and that was, how did the training faculty completed to teach online change their approach to the design of the course, to their design of lessons, and to teaching in general? This is what the survey we had participants take looks like. We asked participants, we ensured participants of their anonymity and informed participants of the purpose for this survey. We also asked faculty their thoughts about online teaching in general and how comfortable they felt with online teaching platforms like Canvas. this is how we posed those research questions in the survey. And then when we coded our data, we wanted to focus on our approach was to have all of the researchers take part in coding the data. We used deductive and thematic coding to analyze the results. And in order, give me a second, sorry. Okay, in order to increase reliability, we use multiple researchers to code the data and code it independently and resolve together. We did this until we reached interpretive convergence. That is that.
Michelle.
So the Quality Matters organization is well known for establishing quality within online courses. They have developed 6 key competencies for online instructors that they've published within an online instructor skill set. The skill set is based on peer-reviewed literature. So the key areas within the OISS that instructors should display competency are an institutional context for their teaching, technologies appropriate for online teaching, instructional design that's appropriate in online environments, online pedagogy, assessment, both formative and summative, and then social presence. We used this OISS as a theoretical framework for the study. So after our coding, we applied this as a lens to view our results.
Okay.
Sherry.
In combination to the OISS recommendation, we also asked on our survey list the response of faculty to the impacts of training on the course design. And based on their response, we could see that faculty response and instructional design had the most significant impacts across the OISS themes, with ETOM and ED 5101 having the most significant impact. For the impact of online training on lesson design, equally we could see faculty response and instructional design were also the most significant, with both ETOM and ED 5101 also having the same response at level. And for the final, for impact of online training on teachers on teaching, faculty response was the most significant response here, with high rate of social presence, and instructional design was also noted, but it was mostly on faculty response. Now, from this survey, next slide, please. From the results of the survey, we observed that with faculty response, most of the respondents indicated that the training actually did improve their course design, lesson design, and their teaching, while they often cited improved navigation, communication, interaction in course and lesson designs. And in terms of workloads, the faculty expectations were not as bad as they originally thought online teaching would be. For instructional design and pedagogy, there was significant improvement to courses where the most often mentioned improvements was in class structure, improvements was also in backward designs, and most of them mentioned that improvement was in the use of additional learning resources. Under pedagogy, the objectives were not mentioned with regards to changes to course or lesson design. However, for engagement, what was most often mentioned was change with regards to teaching. For the theme of social presence, empathy was most significant, with the surveyors mentioning that with regards to their approach to course and lesson design, course design and teaching, they felt more empathy towards the students. And for lesson design, faculty mentioned that the importance of good communication. Well, for under assessment, they discussed the importance of both formative and summative forms of assessment. Next slide, please. Under institutional context, accessibility was the only theme mentioned, while for technology, faculty primarily discussed how they improved their use of LMS, such as Canvas, and how it increased their knowledge of how it actually works. Next slide. So in conclusion, Under the OISS themes, we found out that under instructional design, that faculty actually gained an understanding of backward lesson design, improvements in course structures, and importance of additional learning resources after completing the course. And for social presence, they gained a sense of importance of empathy in online classrooms. For pedagogy, they increased their use of learning objectives and focused more on engagement, student engagement. While for assessment, faculty utilized both forms of summative and formative forms of assessment. And for technology, elements such as Canvas were better as leverage for their online courses. And for institutional context, faculty planned accessible courses as a result of the training.
Janet, I believe you're muted.
You are correct, sir. Now we come to conclusions and suggestions. So professional development for online teaching faculty can improve their course and lesson design, instructor presence, and overall teaching. And a caveat to that is that it can improve all of their teaching, whether it's face-to-face or online. Faculty perceptions of the result of their online teaching training indicate they feel it improved their overall approach to that teaching. So in this space now where we're into hybrid and flipped classrooms, there's a lot of scalability regarding how this training can be used and applied. The research supports the importance of online teacher training in not only improving participants' online teaching, but their approach to teaching overall. And I would just add to this that's ongoing training. We find in many other areas, not germane to this study, but a one and done approach isn't always the needed impact. It's ongoing training and iterative over a period of time. So as a result of this successful implementation of online teaching training, all new members, faculty members are required to take ED 5101, MTU's Foundations of Online Teaching. So one can see here that it's made a definite impact on how they are looking at guidance for their new faculty members.
All right, well, thanks everybody, and thank you all for watching our presentation here on the effects of online teacher training. I'd like to open it up for any questions or discussion anybody might like to engage in, but just before we do, I want you to know that an article based on this work will be published in the second issue in 2023 of the Journal of Higher Education Theory and Practice. Would anybody like to ask a question or engage in some discussion?
It looks like we have a question in chat. Here it says, Eliana, you're welcome to unmute if you can. It says, so they're required to take the online teaching course even if they're only teaching face-to-face. Tom, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. No, the actual Senate policy only applies to fully online courses, those that are signed up to teach as the primary instructor of record in a fully online course. That doesn't currently doesn't even include like emergency remote instruction type of teaching. Just a true fully online course is the only requirement. But all new faculty coming in, maybe that was the gist of your question.
Yeah.
It's a separate policy is that any new faculty coming in are expected to be trained to teach online and are if they haven't already taken some course that frankly I vet to see if it's equal in rigor and learning objectives, would have to take ED 5101 or something of its equivalent.
So eventually, all instructors will be trained, will go through this training, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, only a very small amount haven't had it, right, Tom? Because we trained the majority of us during the pandemic, and then now all new faculty coming in, but there may be a few that weren't teaching online during the pandemic.
And
Somehow.
there's some senior tenured professors here that haven't taught online, didn't need to take it, and may not ever. But their numbers, that group gets smaller and smaller as the other group gets bigger and bigger. And kind of a funny little angle on this is that our provost at the time said, this is a great chance to get some good teaching practice for everybody, even though we know maybe some of them will never teach online.
Well, it's not worth the aggravation trying to teach those folks, who have been teaching for 25, 30 years and who, would probably push back on it. But my belief is everybody should know how to do it. Just like the situation with the pandemic where, we had to move everything online. Well, there were quite a number of faculty who've never done that before. So that made it doubly hard to get things up and running. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I think everybody needs that skill set, whether they're going to use it immediately or not. But it's also hard to get people who have taught for a long time. You can't teach an old dog new tricks kind of thing. No, you have some faculty, but generally you get a lot of pushback, and it's not worth the aggravation.
And Bob, you make great points. We here at University of Wisconsin-Madison, we unfortunately cannot dictate that policy. We're a little different than MTU. But what we do share with faculty young in their career, if they say, I'm only teaching face-to-face, I don't want to teach online, their opportunity cost has just narrowed. In the 21st century working environment, consider being able to be nimble and quick and work in both arenas. So it's all about, if they want to continue on that tenure track or maybe be an academic teaching staff, the ability to do many different things can make a difference if they get hired or not.
You're right about not being able to require faculty. It depends on where you are. When I was with the state system of higher ed in Pennsylvania, we had a really ironclad union contract, and there was no way we could require that. That'd have to be negotiated, and whether what we'd have to give up to get that probably wasn't going to be worth it. But other situations is different, and it's just smart nowadays for instructors to have those skills. Students expect certain things, if all they want to do is use an abacus and chalk on a chalkboard, students might question the value of what they're getting.
Right.
Yeah, Michelle and I had another presentation, and you may want to talk about, always made a really good point that you're a kindergarten teacher teaching kindergartners how to count, had years and years more education training than the calculus teacher at a university. In most or many cases, most of our university instructors and higher education instructors really certainly never had to take a course in best practices of teaching or education, and may have not even participated in a workshop. So it's hard for them to know what the best practices in active learning and student engagement and aligning learning objectives and things like that are. We do see another question from Alina, if I pronounce that right, up here in the chat, or another kind of addition to this other question is, do you have an expedited training for those who may have taught at another institution or have experience under their belt? So that comes up a lot. And even with teachers here, you hear that, oh, I've taught online many, many times over, or I've done this for years. And frankly, many times that's a kind of a red flag rather than a green one, as in, I've been recording 50-minute lectures and putting them online since the sun first shone. But what we have is we have first a pretty long list of courses that instructors could take if they opted to, and their department's willing to pay and they got the time and interest. They can bring in any course that they took, and it actually ends up at my desk for me to vet that course and see if it's equal in rigor and has the same kind of learning objectives and appears to meet them, that those that we have already said are fine and accept. So that it should be equal to the rigor and depth of those courses that we've already said are fine. And also, if I learn that that's a good one and other people can take it, I add that to the list. But other than that, no, if they haven't taken something that's of equal rigor and depth, just having taught online before would not count as already been trained.
Yeah, just because you've taught online for 10 years, 15 years, doesn't mean you've taught well online. And yeah, absolutely. You need to have some kind of standards, and otherwise you get a whole mishmash of skills and quality.
All right.
And here at UW-Madison, what we do is we offer mini self-serve courses. So we know that instructors, faculty are very busy, so it's hard to ask them to participate in a course. So we've developed anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks on learning outcomes. That's what we call them at UW-Madison. Assessments, inclusiveness. We have one on, engagement. So we try and break it up into these mini modules. So it's a little bit more manageable from a time aspect.
Yeah, and that sounds like a great approach. Faculty, particularly at a school like University of Wisconsin, they've got so many things to do in their time. It's, if you ask them to do a whole multi-week course, they're not going to be able to do it. But give it to them in bite-sized chunks, that's doable.
Right. The other thing that we found is that we'll work with schools and colleges, we'll come to them and customize it for them. So like Letters in Science, which is one of the largest schools and colleges, we will tailor that for their needs. And we have to keep it brief, it can't be long, but that seems to have some impact. And then, we will follow up and see if they need additional, they're interested in additional topics to cover. So it's kind of we have to tread lightly.
Yeah.
It may be interesting to note that ED 5101 is actually a regular 4-credit tuition bearing graduate course out of the Cognitive Learning and Sciences department here. We do get a lot of Michigan Tech graduate students if they have a little teaching or GTA experience taking it. And a lot of times teachers and graduate students from elsewhere that sign up for it.
Well, do we have anything else from Elena or Kristen?
Oh, I see something from Elena. By the way, the ED 5101 is 7 weeks, and that's a standard format here for a half semester course. It's a 1-credit course, so it's 7 weeks.
Well, I think I feel closure. So
Yes.
obviously it spurred some ideas, so that's a good thing.
Yes.